I'll just add one little note, which is I think Stephen Hawking is missing one very simple fact, which is we really can't hide from the advanced technological civilizations. If they're 1 million years advanced compared to us, even if they're 100 or 1,000 light years away, they can take pictures of the Earth with fine detail, just as we humans are now very close to being able to take pictures of other Earths. They've been watching us. They can read the license plates on our cars. They know when we go to the restroom. So the aliens are going to come and eat us, whether we broadcast or not, I'm afraid, assuming that they are hungry.
Yeah, some people say that there's really nothing to eat on Earth. I mean, if they're going to come all this way, Jupiter is, way bigger. It's got lots more, all the mineral resources and stuff. So it's hard to imagine. But who knows? Hard to predict.
Okay, and next question here.
Do you think the likelihood of planets increase because we're on the spiral arm? What if you get towards the center of the galaxy? Is that too close to have planets?
Ward and Brownlee talked a little bit about this. That they thought that if you got too close to the center, there's a lot of radiation there and supernovas going off, and that would be a bad thing to be near that stuff. But actually on Earth there are creatures that are radiation tolerant, or you could maybe have life in caves or something like that. So I'm not sure that that's a strong argument. And even if it is, I think there's still a few tens of billions of stars in the Milky Way galaxy that are not right at the center. So I think we're okay there.
And I basically agree. I think it's clear that what we now know is that in our Milky Way galaxy, the admixture of the critical heavier elements like phosphorus, carbon, oxygen, of which the organic material of our bodies is composed, those atomic constituents pervade the galaxy. You find them in the center, you find them in the spiral arms, you find them farther out. There's a fairly uniform chemical distribution, and whether or not a few extra supernovae going off near the center is harmful or in fact, ironically, perhaps beneficial, increasing the mutation rate, isn't obvious to me.
Thank you for making my point, Geoff.
I had heard that the moon was moving gradually farther and farther away, and given what you just said about the benefit of our moon, I just wondered if that was going to mess things up.
The moon is slowly drifting farther from the Earth because of a torque on the moon caused by the tides on the Earth. As the Earth spins with tides, it actually spins up the moon and sends it out farther. But the Earth is simply going to slowly but surely become sort of locked to the moon. As the Earth spins, as the world turns, it will just slowly but surely become locked to the moon. And the moon will still serve in its beneficial role of stabilizing the spin axis of the Earth. So I think we're safe. No reason to sell your stocks.
I don't buy the whole moon thing anyway. I think there are other places, even in our own solar system, where life could have evolved that have nice, stable environments and have liquid water, and so it's not clear to me that we need a big moon.
Okay, a question over there.
Geoff, you commented about SETI not finding anything for 40 years, and when did they give up? But you were in a similar situation 10, 15 years ago when you had been looking, people have been looking for planets for a long time, and you guys didn't give up. And some people could say that's actually an easier job to do than to find ET. So could you comment upon how long you want to look until you give up?
Yeah, there's two ways to view this. In the case of our planet searching, we didn't have the technology to detect planets, and I knew that. We knew what level of Doppler shift precision we needed to detect Jupiters around other stars. We weren't there, so our non-detections were worthless. They were meaningless. They didn't carry information about whether other Jupiters were there or not, because we could not have detected them. I think the case is a little different with SETI. It's not entirely different. It's different in that SETI, especially with big radio telescopes like Arecibo, can detect the powerful transmitters that might be out there. We don't actually know, but they could be out there, and in that case, Arecibo could have detected those transmissions from the advanced civilizations. Having said that, I'll turn the podium over to Dan, because I think a key question is in fact similar, and I think your point is a good one. One could argue that Arecibo, frankly, isn't big enough, and that our Arecibo could only barely detect a transmission from another Arecibo, in which case SETI's non-detections are indeed analogous to the early non-detections of planets that we suffered from.
Yeah, I basically agree with Geoff. I think the searching that we've done today doesn't really tell you much about how many civilizations are out there. And the problem is that all we know is that, well, when we pointed our telescope at this place and we looked at this frequency, they weren't having an incredibly powerful signal. We couldn't detect television, we can't detect navigational beacons, we can't detect radar. The only kind of thing we could detect right now is really strong signals, probably intentional kind of beacons pointed in our direction with a big telescope. And we'd have to be lucky to get it. But I think eventually Earthlings will be able to do much more thorough searches thanks to Moore's law and the growing capabilities. And then the question is, when you do a very thorough radio search and you kind of eliminate the possibility radio signals from all these different directions, all these frequencies, then it'll still be interesting to know. It doesn't necessarily rule out ET. Maybe ET's not sending radio signal. Earth is maybe going radio quiet. We're doing more going to fibers and cable television, more directed, more efficient ways of communicating rather than just leaking all this power off the Earth. And it may be that advanced civilizations don't leak a lot of energy off their planet. So even doing very thorough searches for radio doesn't necessarily tell you there's no ET out there.
Okay, we'll do 2 more questions.
Hi, John Regan. I'm a UCB EE graduate. Planets at home. So we have SETI at home, and we have hobbyists and computer hackers and everything. And now there are people who are developing like atomic force microscopes at home. So surely someone will be interested in doing planet detection at home. You mentioned how you knew when you started that the shift you'd need to detect what the technology wasn't there. But what can you suggest for people who would like to get involved in planet detection at home, and also for let's talk about SETI at home radio observations. Maybe hobbyists with radio receivers all over the Earth, hooking them up together via GPS alignment, et cetera. So for each of you, other technology for researchers at home. Thank you.
Well, let's see. I'll give one answer to the question. There's a marvelous new space-borne telescope called Kepler. It hasn't made the headlines yet, but I promise you it will make the headlines. Kepler is surveying 150,000 stars, measuring the brightnesses of those 150,000 stars minute after minute after minute. And nobody is looking through those databases, the brightness as a function of time, for all 150,000 stars. It's being done by computer, but computers aren't really very smart. They only do what they're programmed. And so I actually agree with what you're suggesting. It would be extremely interesting to send out the data from Kepler to anybody who's interested and have people eyeball the data, star after star after star out of the 150,000 stars, to see if there's some strange signal in those data that is somehow perhaps suggestive of not just a planet, but actual civilizations as well. So I think that this is the kind of thing with the enormous databases nowadays where you really do want to have individual human brains examining the data.
Okay, one final... Oh, sorry, Dan.
I'll just add to that. I think there's questions about citizen science and how can people like yourself who know a lot of different things can get involved. And I think there are lots of ways. There's not just loaning your computer to this search